Okay, then we have Karsten, please. It's probably going to be the last question. It's almost 2:30.
Carsten Gammes from Frankfurt Allgemeine Zeitung in Germany. I have two pictures of the Prime Minister listening to you. One is a realistic, quite rational acting politician. The other is a romantic rice field dreaming about history. As we all know, politics can't just do what it wants to do. You have to react on influence from outside. Economically, this might bring pressure, because everybody knows opening is one of the big problems of Japan. We talk about 20, 30, 40 years about it. Foreign investment will not come as long as there is no proper governance. The fiscal situation is getting worse, so the old Japanese politics of money printing and fiscal spending can't work for a longer time. So do you think this Prime Minister is understanding, willing and able to change the society, or is it just some branding like Womenomics? Just nice words but nothing happens. So do you expect he has a new majority, 2/3, and analysts say yes, now the Big Bang will come. They didn't get it the last time. Do you expect something to happen, or do you see the danger it will decline soon? And yes, Mr. Abe will be history even before he thinks. And the opposition, let's talk about content. DPJ and Ishin is Shoto, for me, it's a bit LDP light. So Western countries compared with Japan are completely different, but the two-party system always has some sort of more left-wing and more conservative. This does not work. The only left-wing party that survived is the communists, and I even met people that I never expected to tell me they will go communists this time. So isn't this just a structural problem, not just a problem of person and people?
I will go first and then Mr. Toshikawa speak for a second. In terms of your final point, the concept of there being left versus right wings, and left versus right parties, Abe has Womenomics, he has Akiya-sama going to the Gay Pride Day Parade, and he takes advice directly from Paul Crumpet. What's left? Yeah, and that's left with a big L, okay? There's nothing there. Mr. Xi is coming here this afternoon. He's going to get to talk about that tiny bit of the spectrum over here that's left for him and his party of the communists. For the most of the part, everything else is taken up there by the LDP. The DPJ has no place to stand in terms of left versus right, because the LDP is already there. It's covered all the bases. It has the most liberal economic program of any party anywhere in an OECD country. It is the left here. So that dichotomy doesn't have any real bearing to the way the economy is run. Now, in terms of the economic outlook, is that what you really want?
Whether the Prime Minister is really the rice field fan, ignores reality, or whether he will be willing to change.
Oh, then the question is, what's good change? You may remember that they had last June, or this June, the 230 plus elements of the third arrow. You disparaged the first and second arrow, saying that's old hat. The third arrow is where it's at, right? Well, the problem with the third arrow is structural reform is naturally deflationary. And the goal of this government and of Mr. Kuroda is inflation. If you're going, you can't have both. So that 230 item list has to be pulled apart and find which things have the least deflationary aspects to them, but still have a good structural reform component. And that, I don't see that effort being made.
私は残念ながら申し上げなければならないと思うのはですね、安倍自民党が大勝して、実は今まで一番構造改革、規制改革についてどの政権も小泉政権を含めてですね、成し得なかったのが厚生労働省所管と農水省所管の岩盤規制と言われるところに風穴を開けるということがこれまで誰もできなかったんですね。
Unfortunately, this is something that I don't want to say, but I must say, and that is that we're expecting Prime Minister Abe and LDP to win very, very big. But when we look at past efforts of strong leaders to try to effect reform, regulatory reform, structural reform, and I'm talking even about Prime Minister Koizumi's attempts at reform, the things that have not been really ever touched or really truly reformed are what we call the bedrock or ganban regulations that exist primarily in the welfare area and also the agricultural area.
安倍さんはですね、ですから第3次改造内閣を12月25日に立ち上げて、来年の通常国会中にですね、この2つのサンクチャリーとされてきた省庁に対してかなり鋭いメスを入れています。具体的に言えば、厚生労働省に対してはですね、上から目線で嫌いな人が多いと思いますけれども、塩崎康久厚生労働大臣ですね、彼の言う例えば GPIF のコーポレートガバナンス改革が本来先にやるべきにもかかわらず GPIF の資産運用の比率を特に国内株式と海外株式それぞれ17から25に上げたわけですね。こういうことに対してもともと塩崎さんは後先は逆だと主張していたんです。しかしながら官邸主導でとりあえず株価を上げるためにですね、水野博道という、イギリスの投資顧問会社の、パートナーを新しく設置したチーフインベストメントオフィサーに起用して、株価を上げるのに成功しておりますが、しかし岩盤に規制にですね、そういう規制に穴を開けるに至っていません。しかし塩崎はやる気十分です。問題は本来なら農水省型なんですね。しかしもう今回選挙が終わっちゃったんですから農協に JA に遠慮する必要がない。そういう意味ではおそらくですね、目に見える規制改革の果実というのはこれから1年以内に、国民の前に示されると思います。ますます安倍さんが強くなることで甚だ私としては不本意なんですけど、そのように予測します。もう一つの質問について。
First of all, as I mentioned earlier, there are two areas in which we have not really been able to see any fundamental reform in the bedrock regulations that have been the most deep, strongest regulations in two sectors, the agricultural sector and also the health, labor, and welfare sector. And I believe these two ministries have until now been able to protect their own territories, but I think this will change as a result of the December 25th cabinet reshuffles. For example, just to give you some idea of what's going to be happening, I believe, is that in the regard to the health, labor, and welfare area, Mr. Shiozaki is a politician who is disliked by many because he takes a very superior attitude. But he has been very, very critical about the reforms that were undertaken at the GPIF, the Government Pension Investment Fund. As you know, what was done to raise stock prices was basically to change the ratio of assets that were purchased by the GPIF, in other words, the ratio of their investments. They decided to raise the investment of domestic stocks from 17% to as high as 25%, and investments in foreign stocks from 17 to 25%. This was something that was done to raise stock prices. However, Mr. Shiozaki from the very beginning had said that was not the right thing to do first. The first thing that needed to be done was to do an overhaul of GPIF and to ensure that corporate governance really existed within this organization. However, because the need was in the Prime Minister's office to raise stock prices to help boost the economy as fast as possible, a man named Mr. Hiromichi Mizuno, who was a partner for a UK investment advisory firm, was designated a chief investment officer. And he made the decision to, again, change the ratio of investments carried out by the GPIF. However, after the elections, I believe that Mr. Shiozaki is going to be able to push through with his ideas, and there is going to be a radical overhaul of GPIF, in other words, strengthening corporate governance and basically making holes in these bedrock regulations in this area. In regard to the agricultural sector, after the elections are over and the LDP has won big, the LDP will not be indebted to or will no longer have to be very, very cautious about its association with the JA system, the Japan Agricultural Cooperatives. As a result, I believe that this will be an opportunity for Prime Minister Abe to push through with fundamental reforms, regulatory reforms, and I think within the next year we're going to be seeing some startling, very major reforms in this area. We're going to see the fruits of some of his efforts. And this is going to be something that Prime Minister Abe is going to be able to do because he's going to only become stronger. I personally do not want him to become stronger, but I think these are some of the positive things that we will probably be seeing.
それから二大制度の話がちょっと出ましたけども、私個人は DPJ にもっともっと躍進してもらいたいのですが、実を踏まえて現実を踏まえて言えばですね、安倍晋三さんと麻生太郎さん2人のコンセンサスがですね、実は自民党の中を2つの巨大派閥にするということなんですね。つまり自民党の中に二大政党システムを作る。一つは安倍さんを中心としたコンサバティブ、今一つは麻生さんを中心としたモデレートコンサバティブ、あるいはリベラルコンサバティブ、名称はどうでもいいんですが、そういうものを作り、2人に共通しているのは安泰形成会、安泰田中竹下ファクションです。ですからこれから来年の統一地方選挙、再来年の夏の参院選挙を通じて形成会、今の額賀派ですね、形成権といいますが、これをもう潰してしまう、極論すればですね。そして LDP の中に2パーティーズを作るというところまで実は恐ろしいことに考えてるんですよ。それが実現するかどうかは別ですよ。私は個人的に実現してほしくないんですけど、 LDP の中にリパブリカン、もう一つの民主党とデモクラットということまで考えているということをちょっと頭の中に入れておいていただいた方がいいと思います。
I would just like to make a comment about the question of this two-party system being established in Japan. I personally would wish that the DPJ would work very, very hard and show much more dramatic growth. At the same time, I am aware of movements within and conversations that are being held within the LDP, and it seems that there is a growing consensus between Prime Minister Abe and Mr. Aso at present to create a two-party system within the LDP. In other words, to create two large factions within this larger party. One would be a faction that would be centered around Prime Minister Abe, who would call this a conservative party or conservative faction, and the other faction would be around Mr. Aso, and I don't know what you would call it, if you would call it moderate conservative or liberal conservative. But this idea is that they are both, these two factions, these two big organizations are joined by their common desire to crush the remnants of the Keisei-kai, the remnants of Mr. Tanaka, Mr. Takeshita's factions, who are now represented by Mr. Nukaga. In fact, in the upcoming regional elections that will be held throughout the nation next year, also in the House of Councillors election that will be held in the summer of next year, the goal of these two large factions is to destroy Mr. Nukaga and anyone that is remaining from the old Keisei-kai factions. Again, this is for me a terrifying idea, and I don't know if it will actually be realized or not, but these conversations are actually being held, so in the future we may have a Republican Party within the LDP and a Democratic Party within the LDP. I just want you to keep this possibility at least in mind.
Just to note, the DPJ can in some ways be denigrated as a breakaway Tanaka Keisei-kai faction, and that's always been one of its negatives, that it's basically a part of the LDP that broke off and is actually just a factional remnant. It's not even a broad-based party. In terms of, there was one error in what we've said today, and it was actually just a sort of a slip-up, and Mr. Toshikawa knows this. There was a statement that there needs to be a 2/3 majority of the people in terms of a constitutional amendment. That's of course not true. It's a 50% majority after there are 2/3 majorities in the House of Representatives and House of Councils. I hope I just want to clarify that. We both know that. That's all.
Thank you very much for this. We have to break it up here because this room will be taken over by the communists in less than an hour. First, I can thank to both our speakers, and I actually can announce the first winner of this year's elections. Mr. Cucek extends his mandate as an honorary member of this club by another year. Thank you very much for coming. Mr. Toshikawa is a regular member, and he gets a more physical present for that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all of you. Have a nice evening.